It all started really about 25 years ago. I started working for a typesetting company back in the day, and I started doing magazines for the typesetting company. And so it wasn't too soon after that, about 5 years after that, 1993, I started a publishing company doing magazine production, which was desktop publishing back then. If you remember back in the day, they were saying that the internet was going to do away with printing, there'd be no more printing of magazines. That was my business, so I felt like I had to do something in the internet to somehow complement what I was doing in print. So I started a .com startup called channelseek.com. And when the internet world kind of opened my eyes to the fact that all media, not just print and radio and television, but everything was going to be converging at some point. And I came up with this idea that the more local you could get content, the more local you could get video, the more local you could get with your radio and print, that the better you would be, because people wanted more local content. And so in 2000, we sold both the publishing company and the .com. And so the idea of @geist.com came up. And it's funny because in all those years of doing print magazines and owning a .com, I never built a website. And so my first website I built was @geist.com. It was actually built in Front Page, which is probably the most rudimentary program you can ever build a website in. And it took me about a year to build it. And in 2003, it was July 4th, and I decided to launch the website. So my daughter and I, Tori, went door to door. We put flyers in the mailboxes of my neighbors to let them know that @geist.com was now online, and it is a free community website, free classifieds, all news about Geist. And then 2 weeks later, we got a fine from the Postal Service for $14.82 for putting first-class mail in the mailboxes. So my first attempt was kind of a failed attempt. But the beauty of it was I started putting signs out at entryways that said @geist.com. And finally, about 6 months later, of just doing the website and just trying to get some traffic, trying to sell some online ads, I had a lunch with Mark Dahl. And Mark was the Geist Harbor's Property Owner Association president at the time. He's an attorney for Simon. And we went to lunch downtown. He was asking me about building a website for Geist Harbors. And he said something about a newsletter, and that they were doing a Geist Harbors newsletter. Nobody ever read it. And immediately, when he said, "Do you want to do a newsletter?" I just popped in my head, well, I've been in publishing for 20 years. Why don't I just do a newsletter for Geist and @geist.com? And so I said, well, I'll do your newsletter, but I'll do it for free. I'll do it monthly instead of quarterly. And here's my deal. I'll put any content that Geist Harbors wants to put in the newsletter. I'll just run it for free every month. And I'll subsidize it through advertising. And I'll mail it to our constituents, our residents. And if I can make money at it, great. And if I can't, it's no skin off your back. And so in April of the following year, 2004, we mailed out our first newsletter. It was photocopied. It was black and white. And it just said, I want to be a community resource. I want to make this something that the community embraces. If you have news and things happening, please let me know. We mailed out 2,700 newsletters. The community support was just phenomenal. It always has been. It's been extremely rewarding. And I look back at my history of doing publishing and internet, and I can't think of anything I could be doing today that wouldn't have leveraged both of those staples in my life. And when you talk about, people always ask me, well, how did you get into this? Well, I was telling them I owned a publishing company and an internet.com company. You put those two together, and that's basically what @geist.com is. I want to be the Rupert Murdoch of Geist. In a very small area, I want to own the print, I want to own audio, video, internet, Facebook, Twitter, all these weapons that we have now to communicate. I want to be the guy. The old saying is still true, and that's content is king. We feel like in a very small market, people are more endeared to local content because it's something that's interesting to them. Our longevity will rely very strongly on the fact that we're providing localized content. It's all done locally. It's about local people and businesses, and people don't lose interest in that kind of thing, that kind of stuff.